Hi everyone, I'm so glad you are here. Let's start with a quick review. What are 3 different things we might call something that we read, especially something that is fairly short or even just part of a longer story? We can call something that we read a text, a selection, or a passage. And what might we call it when we have 2 of them that go together in some way? We can call them paired texts, paired selections, or paired passages. They all mean the same thing. They are 2 pieces of text that you read together and you think about how they are similar and different, and what 2 C words mean to tell how things are similar and different. Compare and contrast, yes. And remember, we have compared and contrasted pictures, words, and very short passages using Venn diagrams and multiple choice questions. Okay, and now let's add another way that we can compare and contrast paired passages. We can also answer a question with a written answer. The question will ask about both passages, so we will have to use ideas from both passages in the answer that we write. Now think here and whisper your answer. What strategy do we use when we have to give ideas from the text to prove our answer? It starts with an R. The race writing strategy. Remember that? When we have to write an answer to a question and use ideas from the text to support our answer, it is very helpful to use the race strategy. And some of you use races with an S, and that is great too. Let's quickly review the race strategy. We start with the R, restate the question. So if the question is, what is the character trait that describes Jack? Remember him from the basketball story? We can start by using words from the question. We can say a character trait that describes Jack is, and that's the R part. Then we have A, answer the question. Let's see, Jack was a good loser, wasn't he? Or to say it in a fancier way, he was a gracious loser. He had a good attitude when he lost. So putting the R and A together, we say, a character trait that describes Jack is a gracious loser. Then we have C, cite text evidence. This means to give ideas right from the text to prove that our answer is right. And remember, some ways to start this sentence. The text says, the author says in the text. So we could say, in the text, he lost his basketball game, but he still smiled at the other team and told them, good game. This is right from the text, and it proves that our answer is right, that Jack is a gracious loser. And finally, we have E, explain. Remember, this means we use ideas from our own minds to explain further. And remember, we can start by saying, this shows, this means, I know. So what do I know about being a gracious loser? Well, it's the best way to handle losing, isn't it? And it's polite to the winner. So I could write, I know that being calm and polite to the winner when you lose at something is a much better response than being a sore loser. And when we put those parts together, we have a complete answer. And guess what, my friends? We can use the race or races writing strategy when we answer questions about paired passages too. The question will be about both passages, so instead of citing text evidence from one text, like we just reviewed, we will need to cite evidence from both texts. So now our C poster will look like this. The 2 books will help us to remember to do that. And instead of saying the text says, we might say the first text says, or one of these other ways. The first passage says, the author of the soccer game says, or whatever the title is, or in the second text it says, or anything like that to tell which passage you are citing text evidence from. Phew, okay, we reviewed how to use the race writing strategy for one text. And remember, it will mostly be the same when we have 2 texts, except we will have ideas from both texts when we cite text evidence. Let's take a look at an example of a written answer using our 2 stories about Bobby and Jack playing sports. The question says, how were Bobby's and Jack's reactions different after losing their games? Use information from both passages to support your answer. And follow along as I read this answer. Bobby's and Jack's reactions were different after losing their games since Bobby got angry but Jack stayed calm. In the first text, when Bobby lost his soccer game, he stormed away instead of lining up to high-five the other team. He just grabbed his ball and left. In the other text, when Jack lost his basketball game, he walked over to the other team and told them good game. He even smiled at them. This shows that Bobby was a sore loser and that Jack was a good loser. And I know that people would rather play with someone who is a good loser. It is not fun to play a game with a sore loser. Did you notice how this includes specific details from both passages? And that is what we have to do when we have a question about paired passages. Let's find the R, A, C, and E parts in this answer. So the question was, how are Bobby's and Jack's reactions different after losing their games? Whisper which part here is the R part. This part here. Bobby's and Jack's reactions were different after losing their games. So we underline it green like the R poster. And also, do you see what's at the bottom of the page? Little check boxes that look just like our posters to help us remember to include each of these parts. So now we check off the R box at the bottom because we have that part. Now find and whisper the A part. This part here. Bobby got angry, but Jack stayed calm. That answers the question. And we underline it pink like the A poster and check off the A box at the bottom. Do you remember what color the C poster is? It's blue. So we will be underlining the C part, cite text evidence, in blue. But you might be asking, will we underline the text evidence from both texts in blue? Good question. Here's what we'll do. We will underline the text evidence from the first passage in lighter blue and the text evidence from the second passage in darker blue. And the light blue and dark blue books on our C poster will help you remember that. Okay, so now find and whisper the text evidence from the first passage. Yes, this part here. In the first text, when Bobby lost his soccer game, he stormed away instead of lining up to high-five the other team. He just grabbed his ball and left. So we underline that in light blue, and at the bottom, let's check off the part of the C box that has the text number 1. That means we have text evidence from the first text. Now find and whisper the text evidence from the second passage. This part here. In the other text, when Jack lost his basketball game, he walked over to the other team and told them good game. He even smiled at them. So we underline that in darker blue, and we check off the text number 2 in the C box to show that we have text evidence from the second text as well. And notice the ways these text evidence sentences started, in the first text and in the other text, so the reader will know where we got these ideas from. And finally, find and whisper the E part that explains. Yes, this shows that Bobby was a sore loser and that Jack was a good loser. And I know that people would rather play with someone who is a good loser. It is not fun to play a game with a sore loser. And we underline that in orange like our E poster and check off the E box at the bottom, which means yes, I included the E part. And if you use the S part as well, you would also have a sentence to sum it up at the end, like, all in all, Jack's reaction was much different and better than Bobby's reaction. And now it's time for What's Wrong? This is the same question, but see if you can figure out what is wrong with this response. How were Bobby's and Jack's reactions different after losing their games? Bobby's and Jack's reactions were different after losing their games since Bobby got angry, but Jack stayed calm. In the first text, Bobby got mad when he lost the game. In the other text, Jack didn't get angry when he lost the game. This shows that Bobby and Jack reacted in different ways. And now whisper what you think is wrong. And now whisper yes or no. Did it restate the question? Yes, it did. It says Bobby's and Jack's reactions were different after losing their games. Whisper yes or no. Did it answer the question correctly? Yes, it did. It said Bobby got angry, but Jack stayed calm. Did it cite text evidence to prove that Bobby was angry, but Jack was calm? No, it did not. It did not tell details from the two passages about what they actually did or said in their reactions. It just repeated that Bobby got mad, but Jack didn't. We definitely don't want to just repeat the answer. We want to give details from each text to prove that the answer is right. How did we know Bobby was mad? How did we know Jack was calm? We need details from each text. And does it explain? Let's see, it says, This shows that Bobby and Jack reacted in different ways. So whisper yes or no. Does that explain some ideas about the text evidence or the big idea answer of the way they reacted? No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell anything new. It just repeats again. The E part needs to have some explanation and ideas from our own minds. It's like a comment you have about the answer. So here you can see that it restated the question and answered it, but it did not cite text evidence or add an explanation. Okay, that's all I have for us today. Next time we will take a look at another written answer, just like we did today, and we will find the R, A, 2C, and E parts. See you next time.